This is a great rotor. It's time to bolt the hub to the rotor. A couple of key features on a zinc plated rotor as opposed to a natural replacement style, stock replacement style. A zinc plated rotor, the zinc provides the corrosion protection, so when you get it, it's not wrapped up in plastic with cosmoline anti-corrosive stuff that you then have to clean off, or it's going to contaminate your brake pads. That's great. Also, the zinc prevents the hub from getting rusted solid to your rotor. So a lot of advantages of going with a higher performance rotor other than its increased stopping power. Cool non-directional finish, chamfered, so really high quality product, cannot beat the price. Thank you 360 Performance Rotors for sending it to us. So you're going to go ahead and get this installed. You want to line up your bolt holes, and you want to just make sure that you can start all of the bolts and get them actually threaded into the rotor before you go tightening everything down with the impact gun. This is a press fit into the rotor, so you want to make sure that nothing is in a bind or you will break parts. So make sure all of these bolts get started. Now we get into the greasy part. So this is not a video on how to pack wheel bearings, but anyway, I use a wheel bearing packer. You put this cone on top, you press down on it, and then it squeezes grease around the rollers. I'll pull this out and show you. You can see the grease squeezing out of the rollers right there, and then what I do is I hold the inner race and then rotate the cage. That kind of squishes the grease around, and I put it back in the bearing packer. Do it again until it squeezes out like that. You can see it right there. Same thing, roll it around. Do that at least twice, then take your finger with some leftover grease and push it in all of the different rollers. I always start with the smallest bearings first, and then go up to the larger bearings. And you want to just keep doing this until all of the rollers are completely and totally encased in grease. Got that guy bolted up there nice. Now I'm going to take some more of this grease, put it on the races. I'm not a fan of packing the cavity full of grease, but I like to have some in there. I think that the grease does not migrate. So we'll take all the leftover that we had from packing the big bearing, smear that around the race in there, and then go ahead and take your big bearing that you've already packed, set it in place, grease off your hands, take your seal, and tap it in evenly around. Take a little bit more grease and grease the rubber. Just makes everything slide together nice. Get a nice big dollop of grease to put on your spindle. Grease up your spindle. I'm going to grab the rotor. This is definitely a repair that you guys can do in your driveway. Okay, I've got the packed outer bearing. I'm going to slip that in there. Then I've got the retaining washer, which indexes like that. And now I grab the big bearing lock nuts. I got my big socket, I've got the nut started. I'm just going to thread this in. Now, some of the benefits of a drilled and slotted rotor. They dissipate heat better, they provide more edges to grip into the pad as they're turning around. They allow gases to escape, they cool better, there's a lot of advantages. The stock rotors, otherwise known as OEM, original equipment manufacturer, that would be manufactured by somebody or by Toyota for Toyota. That would OEM. OE replacement rotors would be original equipment replacement, meaning you go down to your local auto parts store and they will sell you a original equipment replacement rotor, which is nothing more than a cast rotor. It will not be drilled, it will not be slotted, and it will be exactly like what we took off of here. An OE rotor does not mean that it is manufactured by Toyota or by somebody for Toyota to be used on vehicles. Now, this, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to adjust your front wheel bearing. Now, this setup has a lot of seals. It's got the big seal against this dust shield, it's got the inner seal, and it feels like this thing is turning really, really hard. So what I do is I tighten it down, I turn it as much as I can by hand, then I back it off a little bit, I turn it. Didn't really feel like it loosened up at all because there's a lot of drag. And then my rule of thumb is take this with your bare hand and tighten that inner bearing as tight as you can get it with your bare hand. Do not put a wrench on it. Yes, there is specs with use a fish scale and all that jazz, but this is how I do it. Do it however you want to. Okay, got that guy adjusted. Now it's time to install the lock ring. It's pretty simple. It just indexes in there like that. Push it in. Then take your actual other lock nut. Get it started on there, and this one you're actually going to want to put a wrench on because this locks your bearing preload into place. So you want to put a wrench on it, and you want to tighten it down pretty good. It doesn't have to be like gorilla Superman strength, but you want to make it fairly tight. And finally, you need to look inside here and you need to see where the inner lock nut has a flat and it lines up with one of those locking tabs, and where the outer lock nut has a flat. And as it looks right now, right here, looks like I can bend that guy over and lock him in. And it also looks like right here is a good candidate to bend it out and lock the outer nut into place. Okay, so we are locked into place. Okay, next step is to get the snap ring and the gasket and the actual outer hub. You put the gasket on there. I don't believe in putting any sealant on this stuff. Here's the outer hub. And we did have one bad stud right here that we're going to have to get a replacement for. But that guy just indexes in there. And you'll notice that the axle is actually pushed in and I can't get the snap ring on it. So you can just thread a bolt into the end, pull it out. Okay, I just grabbed the tapered spacers, put those guys on, and when it comes to these, snug is good. I have seen a lot of these where these have been broken off because people over tighten them. They are a fairly small stud, and it's easy to strip these out. They don't need to be very tight. Okay, like I said, snug is good on these. You don't need to over tighten them. So again, there's probably a torque spec. If you're not confident, look up the torque spec. I just use a little wrench. Okay, now I need to install the snap ring on the end of the axle to keep the axle from pulling out of the hub. We'll put that on there like that. And we get our dust cap. Tap it on there gently and take a screwdriver and put the cap on the outer edge. Don't bang in the middle. You'll do nothing but dent the cap. Okay. Hub reassembled. Turns really hard because the axle is engaged now. That's normal. Now we need to move to the back to get the brake caliper installed. Next on the punch list is to reinstall the brake caliper. It's 2 bolts, pretty straightforward. Now we move on to the brake pads. A pretty simple installation. Toyota did a great job designing these. You just slip the pads in there like that. Get your 2 pins in your tensioner. What I always do is I get them lined up like that. You can slip the top of the tensioner over. Okay, and then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to push down on the anti-rattle and adjust to go through like that. Then, lastly, take the special retaining pin, insert it into both of these pins here, and then it slips down through that hole and locks everything into place. Then I like to just kind of mentally go back through all of the different steps and make sure that everything has been tightened up. So I'm sure that the axle has been indexed in. I'm sure that we have grease in it. I'm sure that I've put the lock ring on here. I've got the snap ring on there. I put the cotter pin in there. I've tightened the caliper bolts. The lock pin and retainer is all on that. And everything moves freely. The speed sensor is in place and everything else is tight. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, you can buy all these products at www.jonesysoffroad.com. Thanks for watching.